What has happened to gaming? There is games that are created with the highest levels of detail, the most minute details put into a story that can bring tears to your eyes. 2 long years of hard labour and love has been crafted and put into this video game, and yet it barely breaks even. And then you have these games that are rushed out Call of Duty clones and exceed expectations. Not in reviews, not in feedback, but in sales, exceeding 7 to 8 million globally. These publishers have exploited this hazy little area in gaming, known as the first-person shooter. They have milked it and prolonged its existence far and beyond what it should have been. There's a great lack of innovation, and I bet you some of these game developers, some of these programmers, some of these testers was once a child playing video games, and I bet they thought to themselves, I want to create this great gaming experience that other people can enjoy like I did when I was a kid. But they're not doing themselves justice. They have these publishers putting unjustified pressure to create these Call of Duty clones, these Battlefield clones, these Killzone clones, these Halo clones, these clones of the same generic shite. Developers are afraid to speak up, to create the games they dream about, because of a fear of not being accepted in a gaming sense, seeing their creative designs being overshadowed in sales and reviews by corrupt reviewers like IGN and GameSpot. They are there to generate traffic and to cause a stir in gaming. Because what sells? New innovative game could change gaming, or Halo 5. Call of Duty Ghost new multiplayer map packs. And it's not as if these games are bad. Developers do not feel secure unless they put a gun in the user's hands. How shameful is it that Beyond Two Souls is unique? There isn't other games trying to emulate it. 2 years waiting for a game of that calibre. They sacrifice heartfelt storylines for CGI inspired action sequences. But there is games that shine through. BioShock Infinite, The Last of Us, and a game that I know will surpass my expectations is Metal Gear Solid 5. Not even for the gameplay, not even for the kick-ass characters, but because it's daring enough to be different, to tell thought-provoking storylines that can make you cry. There is torture scenes that make you weep, showing children with guns forced to kill other children, forced to kill adults. A life that goes beyond poverty, that tortures a person's soul. What makes us human? Do we have our freedom, or is it an illusion? If you've played Metal Gear Solid games, you know these themes are strong throughout. Regardless of the negative feedback, there is more positive feedback because gamers can relate. Hideo Kojima really does stand alone. He understands. He incorporates all the elements that make a great game. For too long, games have been shy, scared of touching the most serious of topics. I find it pitiful when I see developers only talk about the graphics, about how they've innovated the gameplay, only to find out that they're still using the same camera angle, the same set pieces in a different wrapper, in a new skin, with a new colour. Now I understand that it's the publisher forcing this, but sometimes I do question, if these developers do get the freedom, what's stopping them? I remember as a kid thinking that there would be these game worlds that would be so expansive, filled with dialogue that would change every time you played it. Worlds reminiscent of Blade Runner, where you could invest your time and you didn't ever want to leave. It makes the real world a bore. And I got glimpses of this. With Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII, the games were on 32-bit systems. The imagination was needed to make up for the lack of graphics. And believe me, I imagined it greatly. And believe me, my imagination would go wild. It was also helped by the magnificent music that mixed ambience and classical. The themes have stayed with me to this very day. I'm 25. For half of my life, I have listened to that music and the imagination still kicks in. I expected more innovation, more grand ideas, with limitless freedom. But we never got it, or at least I never got it. I know I'm not alone in saying Final Fantasy died, but I'm not talking about Final Fantasy. I'm talking about games. It never really progressed at the same speed. 10 or 15 years may have passed, but in innovation terms, we're looking at a year or two. If anything, game lengths have gone down, side missions have decreased, and the imagination has vanished. If Final Fantasy XIII was my first introduction to a Final Fantasy game, I would have enjoyed it, but I wouldn't have experienced it. And even if I got introduced to the older Final Fantasies, once you are exposed to the new graphics, you can't look at the retro games in the same way. Not in the way that I can. I still have the nostalgia. I still have the memories. So graphics doesn't bother me in the same way as the kids of this current generation. But there is a line, and I shouldn't cross it. Because who am I to tell kids that their current generation is shite? There is a narcissism of self-indulgence, of reliving your youth, claiming that it's better than the next generations. It happens to all of us, it will happen to you. It's a sign of life moving on. But I feel that what I say is valid to a lot of people and interesting to a lot of people. I have always been drawn to emotional content, and when it's mixed with amazing gameplay, it is a life experience, just like a movie that has stayed with you from your childhood. So let me ask you, is gaming heading in the right direction, or is it in need of a little help? A developer who isn't scared of expressing his ideas, his life experience into conveying a character that is different than the rest. Because there is no shame in being different. If anything, that's what gaming needs. This topic really didn't need this much emotion, but I don't care. It's my video. When you see the harsh world we're living in, escapism is needed. It really is.
Mr. Moore! In your face! Mr. Moore is a bird!